Your brain needs support, and new Ollie Brainy Chews are a delightful way to take care of your cognitive health. Made with scientifically backed ingredients like Thai ginger, L-theanine, and caffeine, Brainy Chews support healthy brain function and help you find your focus, stay chill, or get energized. Be kind to your mind and get these nootropic chews at ollie.com. That's OLLY.com. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
There's been a lot of buzz lately around the future of TikTok in the U.S. In recent weeks, the debate's only intensified after Congress and President Joe Biden passed a bill that will eventually force the sale of the Chinese-owned social media app or ban it outright. For years, politicians and national security experts have vocalized their concerns about the app's ties to the Chinese Communist government. More than 170 million Americans are currently on TikTok. That's 51% of the country. Those in favor of the recent legislation argue that the Chinese government has access to all of these American accounts and the sensitive information within them. But there are also many adamant supporters of the short-form site. Between 2020 and 2022, TikTok was the most downloaded app in the U.S. and the world. You can find almost anything on the platform, from first-time mom advice to recommendations on what book to read next. Today, the most popular social media apps among adults are YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, and TikTok. A third of all adults report using TikTok, according to a 2023 Pew Research survey of almost 6,000 adults. The average person in the U.S. spends about 2 to 3 hours on social media per day. But how can we be more cognizant of how this consumption may be affecting our mental health?
Paying attention to who you already follow can be a really good step. So if you notice that you always feel a certain way, like you always feel poorly about yourself after seeing posts from a certain person, it might be a good idea to unfollow those people. But then if there's people that always make you feel good, think about why it's making you feel good, what it is about those things that you like, and then try to find more people like that. So when it comes to certain social media platforms like Instagram or TikTok, search for hashtags that align with the type of content you'd like to see.
That's Dr. Sierra Kirkpatrick, an expert in social media and an assistant professor of advertising and public relations in the College of Journalism and Mass Communications at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. In 2022, she was the lead co-author on a paper published in the journal Computers in Human Behavior. The research homed in on how idealized and non-idealized parenting content on Instagram affects new moms' mental health.
Prior to the study, we knew that there's a lot of idealized content out there that shows motherhood to be this perfect, happy experience with no difficulties or hardship. And we wanted to see whether or not that is negatively affecting things like envy, state anxiety, and just overall how much mothers are comparing to those portrayals that they see. But then we also wanted to study the effects of who the post was coming from. So whether it was coming from a social media influencer who is also a mom, or just an everyday mother on Instagram who doesn't post because she's an influencer. She's just posting to share her experience.
And what did Kirkpatrick and her co-author find?
We found in the study that mothers compared more to the content that was coming from moms who were like them. So not the influencers, but the actual everyday mothers who were posting were compared to more. And we think that's because of the similarity aspect between the mothers in our study and those everyday mothers on social media. In our lives, we tend to compare to people who are like us because they are better comparison targets in terms of helping us to know what we should be like and what we should strive for in our personal lives. But even though the mothers compared more to the content that wasn't idealized, the idealized posts had negative effects on the outcomes of envy and state anxiety. So the new mothers in our study actually had more envy and anxiety as a result of that idealized content. And I think the most interesting aspect was that the idealized portrayals of motherhood negatively affected the moms in our study, regardless of whether the post was coming from an influencer or an everyday mother. Both source types cause negative effects if the posts were idealized.
When Kirkpatrick and experts reference idealized posts on social media, these are pictures or videos that don't portray the full picture. It can often show a new mom that's glowing, perfectly put together, and seems like she's effortlessly balancing this new life. It can also be home, relationship, or baby content that comes across as picture perfect. Typically, this is far from the reality and can lead fellow new moms feeling like they're not good enough or doing something wrong. Kirkpatrick also chimes in with some other examples.
The idealized portrayals of motherhood that we tend to see on social media are very kind of braggy. They're talking about all the great things that the child has achieved, whether that be, day-to-day tasks or milestones. It also includes a lot of extravagant experiences. So really cool vacations, perfectly clean homes. The mothers and the child are in matching outfits.
This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Forget the frustration of picking commerce platforms when you switch your business to Shopify, the global commerce platform that supercharges your selling wherever you sell. With Shopify, you'll harness the same intuitive features, trusted apps, and powerful analytics used by the world's leading brands. Sign up today for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/tech, all lowercase. That's shopify.com/tech.
Over the last few years, some trends on TikTok and Instagram have focused more on breaking this unrealistic culture. Some influencers have leaned in and found success by posting unfiltered, realistic content. Or some have also embraced posting a mix of the bad and good, but trying to show both sides equally.
Specifically on TikTok, you can find a lot of mothers who are purposefully talking about the difficulties. They're even talking about the comparisons they're making to other mothers, and they're showing their messy houses or their kids who are just kind of out of control and not perfectly behaved. And so there's absolutely still a lot of idealization out there, but I think we're starting to see more awareness about it and people trying to kind of combat that and show a more realistic portrayal of motherhood.
Kirkpatrick does emphasize that social media can be a positive tool, but it's a fine line between the realistic portrayals and the content that can be very detrimental to mental health.
Becoming a mother, especially when you're a new mom, a first-time mom, it can feel very isolating, and like what you're going through is something that only you are experiencing. But then once you start talking to other people, whether that be in person or on social media, you realize that these things that you thought only you were experiencing are actually being experienced by tons of mothers. And so I totally agree that social media is making it a lot easier in some ways to feel less alone. And you've probably seen the headlines about how, certain people are turning to TikTok as their search engine now and using it instead of Google to find information. And I think that's where this comes into play too, is if I'm experiencing a certain thing, whether that be during pregnancy or postpartum, I can easily go on TikTok, search for what I'm experiencing, and find real mothers who are also experiencing the same thing and sharing their stories, their emotions, their ways of coping with it. And that can be incredibly helpful. So I think, those realistic conversations that are taking place can really have a lot of great effects.
It's no secret that becoming a parent is a monumental, life-changing shift. For women specifically, from pregnancy to postpartum to motherhood, this journey is long and challenging and requires a lot of support. There's no shame in asking for help when it comes to supporting your mental health.
When the mental health of a mom is affected, that's going to trickle down and affect their kids as well. Because if you can't take care of yourself, it's hard to take care of other people.
To find out more about the effects of social media and our guest, Sierra Kirkpatrick, visit viewpointsradio.org. Also visit our site to find more mental health resources and information on how to set up social media time limits on both iPhones and Android phones. For more behind the scenes and to support our show, search Viewpoints Radio on Instagram, X, and Facebook. This segment was written and produced by Amira Zaveri. Our studio manager is Jason Dickey. I'm Gary Price.